From North London lights to the Mersey rain, to sky blue nights when the champions reign. Three voices rise when the whistle blows. Same beautiful game, different colors we chose. Football is life. Win, lose, and argue all night. From the terrace to the mic, football is life.
Hey boys, welcome to our latest episode of Football is Life. Billy, good to have you, mate. We don't have Wazza. We don't have Wazza's beautiful hairdo, which is why he's on this podcast. We have Billy, who's got like a Ryan Giggs, like if we were in Ryan Giggs, like mid-90s kind of whatever it was, hairdo. I love it with the curtains, mate. You're bringing it back. He was a fantastic player. But yeah, how are you, Billy? Good to have you on.
Oh, doing good. How you doing, boys?
We're good. We've got Mike Senior, right? So Mike is here, who is our glass half full Gunner, and Billy is here to temper Mike's enthusiasm. And Billy, that's why I like you. You even him out. You even some of these Gunners out, Billy, for us. And you show us there are Gunners out there that are sensible, right? We love that about you, Billy. That's why we're loving it.
Let us not forget that this is the same Gunner who said that the league was lost in December and couldn't be more incorrect. So
listen, he's humble though, right? Okay, it's about qualities, Mike, right? Okay, so listen, we love to have Billy on just to even this out and give some of our Gunner listeners a bit of a little bit of a reality check. But listen, you are champions. We go into new season. We're gonna bit of a flow to this. We're going to start with the transfer. That's where we are now, right? We're getting punched in the face, right? Post-World Cup transfers. The World Cup has a knock-on effect. We're going to talk a little bit about the window, how it is manifested so far, some of the rumors we're hearing. We'll then transition to looking at the early fixtures. So what does that first sort of 3 to 4 game weeks look like? And then that will finish on fantasy strategy, right? So we have Mike, the Yoda of Premier League fantasy football. We'll be giving you some tips and tricks in terms of how you need to be thinking and navigating through these early team selections. Where right now you can go in and pick your team and auto-select and change it as much as you want. But in a couple of weeks, it's going to be go time, and you need to lock in your decisions. So some early advice on that. So let's start with the transfer window. Again, a bit of a funky one because we've had the World Cup, and then we get this knock-on effect where we don't get a ton of transfers, right? And if you think about it, really, outside of Tottenham, there's not been a ton of business done. There's a lot of rumors, again, swirling, and you're looking at, I see my Facebook page or Instagram, and it's like, what's the source of that rumor? Because you're kind of like, there's certain sources, like maybe David Ornstein. I'm like, okay, well, it's probably something in that.
Right.
Versus other ones where you go, oh, Michael Owen said this. You're okay, right? Let's just talk that way over here. First of all, it's not been. And maybe this is, again, the impact of the World Cup. It's not been a particularly exciting off-season for transfers. Let's look at Arsenal, for example, right? So there's Trossard on the way out. Other players may be rumored.
Christian Norgard, massive signing by Everton on the way out as of...
crazy signing. But, that was a bizarre one. But then you've got a winger from Bruges coming in.
Yep.
I think it was at Norwich a number of years ago. And, so again, as an Arsenal fan, you're probably feeling a bit like, you're not super excited. You had the Vinícius Jr rumors. Billy, would love to get your take on those because they have been extinguished very quickly. But were you? Did that? It felt like Arsenal fans that you get that kind of like, again. This is why I'm bringing you.
I don't think it's extinguished. By the way, it's still all over the feed. I don't know that it'll happen, but
I've seen Fabrizio talking about it a little bit now, and it looks like it's either he's got talks with Madrid now. We're either going to re-sign and they're going to work on that, or he'll walk. And obviously Real Madrid aren't going to let that happen. So there could be talks about a reasonable price tag, but I don't want him. I don't want him.
And I like that. But first of all, Bill, you see, this is at the beginning of the podcast, this is why I called it out. Mike is, because you know why? He subscribes to all the happy clapper, happy ears Arsenal feeds. Vinny's coming to Arsenal. Billy, you're grounded. You know it's not going to happen. You also know he's bad news, right? Now, okay, Trossard out, Vinícius Jr. in. On paper, you go, oh, wow, bit of an upgrade. But tell me why you don't want, because I wouldn't want Vinícius Jr. at Liverpool. But tell me why you don't want him at Arsenal.
I think Arteta's built a team
around
at
centre half.
Arsenal. He hasn't built. Well, he does. He's not a centre half, so that does make it difficult. But Arteta, he's built a team. He hasn't built a superstar and then some other guys. Like, he's built a team, and Vinny is undoubtedly like a top player in the world, but I don't think he offers anything in the unit. He offers like counterattacking, and he offers something for himself. But when we don't have the ball, he doesn't offer much. And I would rather have someone who I know is going to work off the ball. He's not the best player in the world, but Kai Havertz, I love Kai Havertz because he works off the ball. And I would rather have a player that does something like that for the team than someone who's there to make noise and have a massive wage bill for no reason.
And there we go, Mike. If there's any more proof needed that Billy's a unicorn, an Arsenal fan that likes Kai Havertz, like that is, Billy, you are a unique character, and we are so
scored
happy.
Today. He scored.
Yeah,
he scored today.
Against who?
Against Girona.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah,
Champions League side, you know.
Top player.
Top side.
Top player, Kai Havertz, top player. But yes, so look, my point was, Mike, though, like, as an Arsenal fan, you're probably feeling like going into the season, if it started today, you'd be like, right? Because you've got Saliba's, is he fully fit? Is Declan Rice 100%? There's all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at Liverpool, right? So we're in this preseason tour. Yes, Areola has come in and we're playing in the front foot and we're all like, oh, this is what we want to see, right? So at least we've got like a picture. But then I'm looking going, most of our best players aren't really with the squad right now because they've been at the World Cup and, so many squad players playing. We've not been busy at all in the transfer window. And I think the only team I'm just looking through the Premier League going, for the podcast, going, are Spurs going to be? Spurs are the team that made the moves, right? So look, Guimaraes is the big one for Arsenal. That seems pretty likely to happen.
You got to think it is, given the fact that Eddie Howe has now quit. Like, he's like, I'm done. I mean, you're selling all our assets, and Waza said it last time we were on, right? It's like, you might as well just relegate Newcastle now if they get rid of him and Tonali and all the changes that they've made. And so I think Eddie Howe's kind of feeling that same way.
I feel bad for Newcastle though, because this is where, like, you look at like clubs like Man City and some of these other clubs like Chelsea. The idea was like Newcastle have not got a shortage of funding behind them. The problem is the rules, the financial fair play. So it feels like they're getting stung in a way that other clubs are not to get away with. And you kind of go, well, how? If you're even look at Brighton, right? Aston Villa. You look at any of the teams in and around that top 8, right? How are they meant to elevate to that level of your Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City now, right? If they can't spit, you know what I mean? It's like, so there is an element of like, so I do feel, because I think they thought they were able to do that. I think this is a rethink of like, we have to rethink the whole strategy here because of the way that the rules are. It's an interesting one, right? It's fascinating. But look, Arsenal could be the beneficiaries as Tottenham have been in terms of Sandro Tonali. But yes, certainly, look, there's lots. It feels like there's lots of like Guimaraes. I feel like that one's it just feels like
it feels pretty imminent. Like I was really kind of hoping that something would pop before we recorded again, so we'd have more to talk about that was concrete than all the what ifs. But the only concrete one, like I said, is Christian Norgard over to Everton. So okay,
it's a classic Moyes move. Moyes will get more out of him. There you go. But no, I mean, look, Liverpool, the same thing. It's like we've been linked with Diamandi that obviously, when he was, I'm going to PSG, and then Real Madrid, it was like a domino effect. I'm turning down Liverpool for PSG, and then it's like, oh, Madrid are interested, and turn down PSG for Real Madrid. But now Barcola is the big one.
Yeah.
That looks like a big money one. I don't like them. I think he's highly overpriced. But I just think, look, he is really, really quick, like really fast. I think his end product's questionable. Don't get me wrong. I think Areola's a good coach. I don't know. That feels like a lot of money for somebody that to me is quite raw. That's my opinion. Like, Diamandi, I felt the same way about, by the way. I felt like there was and I could be wrong on both counts in terms of, look, if you sign him and you pay 120 million and he's fabulous, then you don't really care. The money doesn't matter. But I just think, how often does that happen when you pay that premium? It's rare, right? Because the expectation then becomes like the bar is so high. But But that's another one that seems to be gathering some steam. Certainly, which is, again, I don't love that strategy for us. I think we should be in the 50 to 60 million pound bracket for players, rather than, again, I'd rather assign those types of players than go for these big blockbuster signings. But I mean, outside of that, Chelsea is interesting. I don't know if you saw it, Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck. So there's a complete opposite end of the spectrum here with Xabi Alonso, right? I know, look, they paid 100 and whatever million for Morgan Rogers. I think he's a fabulous player. I think it's a lot of money. Again, probably too much, too rich. For, they've already got Cole Palmer. He said he's got a plan to get the best out of both of them in the same team, which is interesting. But yeah, he wants experience. They tried to get Granit Xhaka. It looks like Hendo's now, they've agreed, him and Brentford agreed to part ways. It looks like he could be on his way to Chelsea, which is almost unthinkable. And then Danny Welbeck, you've got João Pedro. They signed Liam Delap. I think Nicholas Jackson is already back, right, from Bayern Munich. And you're going, do you know what we need?
We need another striker. They build teams with strikers. We build them with center backs.
Well, did I also see they signed Lacroix, did they not?
Yes.
Who?
Lacroix is gone from Palace. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, center. Yeah, sorry.
That was a good signing.
Yeah.
I thought.
I
but
think
the other two are quite questionable.
Well, the thing is, Billy, they need center halves. I actually see the Hendo, in terms of being a captain when you got a young team. I understand it. The Welbeck one at his age, I don't know what the deal would be. But I think if Hendo's a free, you couldn't get Xhaka. I kind of understand that based upon looking at the inexperience in Chelsea's team. And, he is very much a captain type player. And again, not saying he's going to play every game, but Welbeck one is I think Danny Welbeck's been undervalued at international level. I really do. I think I think he had a bit of a nonsense start to his career, but I think he's shown that he has
Arsenal legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Man United, Arsenal. It's a bit of a bizarre career he's had, but
he joins a very small list. I was seeing on social of players that have played for both Arsenal and Chelsea, and there was a triumvirate. I can't remember what the third team was, but it was him, Cesc Fabregas. It was a very interesting collection of players that have done that.
Yes. So just because João Pedro to me is a good player, right? Delap, not a great player, but you've got him, and he's a guy that gives something different. He's a bigger physical weapon. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Nicholas Jackson, whether he's one of those players. I feel does anyone want him? You might end up with him, and so the Welbeck signing seems a bit I don't know that I fully get it, because I feel like you've got João Pedro's your starter. I think it's a no-brainer. So unless they're moving on from Delap and Jackson, it's just an interesting pivot from what Chelsea have been doing, which is let's sign guys at 20 years old, give them 28-year contracts. And, this is a massive pivot. So maybe shows something has changed in the ownership model, that maybe because they've had failure, or maybe it's Alonso's got a bit more clout. But I think that's certainly one to keep an eye on, because that's an interesting pivot from a Chelsea perspective.
Yep. Agreed.
What it means, though, the Premier League season starts in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. It means we should, in theory, have a very condensed couple of weeks. We should have more momentum building now, as some players come back from having a holiday after the World Cup and rejoin their clubs. But also, it means the likelihood is a lot of these transfers are going to bleed into the season, into the first couple of weeks of the season, which we don't love as fans. The Isak debacle last year is an example of that. Not great experience for any of the parties, I don't feel. So that's going to be an interesting one, right? In terms of it feels like a lot of these transfers, just knowing what, the time it takes to get some of these deals done, there's a very condensed window now. So we're hoping that these things pick up momentum now, and we get next week when we talk, we're going to have a host of things to talk about, because a lot of these become clearer into which ones are just smoke and mirrors, and other ones which are, there's more substance behind. But it feels like, do you not think there's a lot of business to be done?
There has to be, right? I mean, it's been so quiet, with the exception of 2 or 3 clubs. And I mean, credit to City, the Elliot Anderson deal is huge and looks even better now because of the timing of it. And that's the thing that I don't love is leaving it this late Like, this is the same thing that, like, you talked about Isak, and with any of them, it takes time to gel and fit into the structure and the plans and all of that. And this is why I hate a transfer window that doesn't close when the season starts, because it just screws with the team for a month. And it's I don't love it. I don't love it. I granted, with the World Cup, you were going to run into some of this, but I hate it for that reason. It just completely messes with team strategies and figuring out how you're going to work players in. It's not great.
Billy, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, season should just start later. I mean, that's as simple as that. I never understood why there was like a week or two of the window into the season. Like, why give teams a last chance to go fix something they find that's a problem? No, set your team before the season. Let everyone get help. Like, the NFL has already started with their preseason stuff. There may be a trade or two, but the team that they have now is the team that they have, and they're trying to whittle down to who's going to start the season in a couple of weeks. That should be the same thing that's happening in the Premier League.
Yeah, and in the NFL, like I say, there's free agency. There's people that don't have a team that then can be picked up. Sometimes guys get injured during I agree, Billy, but generally speaking, the big trades, sometimes you always get at the deadline. There might be a couple of moves, right? But most of the business is done. And I think all football fans want that. I just don't think anyone I don't love it. And again, it makes the start of the season very interesting. I think a World Cup year exaggerates the problem. I've said this, I've been vocal. I don't like it anyway, but a World Cup year exaggerates it even more, because I understand, if I'm playing for Scotland at the World Cup, I don't want the distraction of negotiations at a club level, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the right thing to do. So you do have to punt on those conversations, but you would think a lot of these things. Look, again, I just think, look, we all know that. I know that there's rules around this, tapping up players, but it's like there's certain deals you get. Everyone kind of knows. Like the Isak deal last year, everyone kind of knew. Look, he wants to go. It's going to happen. They're going to pay a whack of money. So I do think there's an element of just being pragmatic about this that I think sometimes clubs let themselves down as well. But yes, anyway, let's talk about the fixtures. Let's talk about because there's not a ton. I will mention, obviously, I know Man United fans are Tielemans they've signed, Andrew Santos. So one solid signing, one young guy. Can they make him a better player? Let's see. But I just feel there's just not a ton to talk about. But in terms of the opening fixtures, when I look at those, the opening kind of blocks of games, I'm kind of looking for those. What are the games that really stand out and excite me? Newcastle, Liverpool is one of those games that I'm kind of hoping Guimaraes goes, because that makes me a little bit less yeah, absolutely. It really does make me a lot less nervous about going there, because that's a really, really hard place to win, as we know. But yeah, obviously an easy one. Looking, Arsenal got an easy start against, well, on paper, an easy start.
You say that. Remember Chelsea. What happened when Brentford came up?
Listen, ex-Chelsea, Frank Lampard want to get something. And then you have the other one that stands out to me is Brentford Spurs. A lot of hype around Spurs because they have been active in the market and they go to Brentford. So, that'll be a solid enough test. As we know, Brentford are certainly going to be no pushovers, I wouldn't expect. So they're the ones that stand out to me. And then, week 2, Arsenal go to Villa. That's certainly interesting.
Arsenal have after the first match against Coventry, they've got Villa and then they have Chelsea.
I love that.
It's going to be spice right out of the chute, and the Chelsea match is at the Emirates, so Morgan Rogers will get welcomed appropriately.
Listen, that's the one that stands out. Arsenal's fixtures there, as I say. There is a Spurs Newcastle game week 2 as well, which is interesting to me. But yeah, so look, how are you feeling as Arsenal fans in terms of going into those games? Obviously on paper an easier start with Coventry, but then Villa and Chelsea coming quite quickly, where you would hope the squad would be determined. But how are you feeling defending champions going into the new season?
Go ahead, Billy.
Cautiously optimistic. I definitely want to see how the Greek signing starts in the preseason, because I don't think, assuming we don't sign Vinny, I think he's our starting left winger. And I don't think Saka is going to be starting the season. I think it's unlikely that Declan Rice is starting the season. I'm pretty sure Saliba's injured for a couple weeks, so your back line's looking a little more like Nketiah, Calafiori, Gabriel, and maybe Timber. I don't know if he's fit.
I last I heard was it didn't look like Timber was going to start either. So we're going into the season with a lot of injury doubt.
I'm glad we have a couple of Spanish guys on the roster that were part of the World Cup, and they'll I'm hoping, especially since they didn't play a lot of minutes, they'll be part of the team early and they can bring a little bit of energy to the team as well. They just won the World Cup. They just won the league. They've got a little bit about them. I'm glad we're starting against Coventry. Not that that's a knockoff, we're going to win, but it definitely it's a way to start the season and not have to play Manchester United or Tottenham or someone who's had a little bit of a window as well that's expecting to do things this year. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't like that we have to play Villa week 2 and I don't like Chelsea week 3, but Coventry to start the season is not the worst way to go.
Mike.
Yeah, I Billy said it all, as they say. Yeah, I completely agree with all of that, and it's the injury question marks or just coming. It's problematic. I mean, you're not talking about second tier players or people that are coming in for the final 30. You're talking about Saka, Rice, Saliba. That's the core of your squad, especially Rice and Saliba. I mean, you like to talk about the spine of a club. Well, there you go. I mean, it's going to be scary to start without some of those folks and without unless we can make some of these moves happen in the next few days to get them over, right? It's just, they're not going to be ready to just fit right into the team. So you're already looking at Villa or Chelsea as the time that they would start to step in anyway.
I don't think Guimaraes though, that type of signing probably could play quite quickly.
Probably could, and he's probably the only one, right?
Yeah.
Just because he knows the league, he's that one's not as difficult as someone that's coming from the outside.
Yeah, and he's slot into the Declan Rice. I mean, like you say, Billy, Zubimendi, maybe he was barely played at all, so should be somewhat fresh. Along with Mourinho had more of a role to play and was more decisive. But yes, it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, look, Liverpool. I don't even know. We've got a lot of our guys not with us. I feel there's so much more transfer business required for us. And to your point, Billy, that it's a new manager. Add into that, right? At least I think with Arsenal, we've got the manager, we've got the core of players that know what we're doing. I think that's important. I think as we go into the season, I look at Chelsea, I look at Tottenham, I look at Liverpool, even to a degree, Man United, I would throw in there, and Man City. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm not looking at any of those teams and going, oh man, City have had a phenomenal transfer window, and we might be in there. I don't think that's the case. They've got a new manager. Yes, they've signed a good player, but Rodri's out.
Yeah, and could be out. There's rumor of him leaving. So which would be a big blow, I think, because he was man of the tournament, right, Ross? So
don't start me. But you understand what I mean? So I think as an Arsenal fan, I think, Billy, your cautious optimism it's probably more to do with what other teams aren't doing versus what your team are doing, if that makes sense, because you're defending the title. And you go, well, we don't have to we won the title last year. We don't have to make massive changes, right? Other teams have to try and find a way to go, how do we wrestle this off Arsenal? And yeah, I don't think there's any team. I think Spurs have been the most in terms of, I love Dan Heck
was a great sign.
Robertson. I think they've done Tonali, Fernandez. I think that they've made some and in areas you go, yes, you need that. Chelsea needs center halves, right? Versus another forward. I think I see the picture. Now, look, the problem is Tottenham got a brand new, I know he was there at the end of the season. So all these teams have got the new manager factor of how long does it take the manager to impress his ideas and belief system and get the dressing room right so the team's doing the things. You imagine there's going to be some growing pains for most, if not all of those teams.
I actually think Spurs are probably one of the teams better prepared for this season, and they have a weird problem of having too many center backs. They have Van Hecke, Van de Ven, Romero, and Senesi. Like, they're trying to be Arsenal out here, signing all their center backs. I don't know what's going on. Too much good happening in the red half.
I feel Romero's going. I feel like there's going to be. I think Romero might be.
He should be on his way out. I was never a fan of him. I think he's too rash. He reminds me of, he's like Lisandro Martinez at United. They're both they're all right center backs, but they're both way too rash. With their play style, it doesn't make any sense. But they have an oddly good back line. Are they the ones who also just signed Trafford, or did he go somewhere else? The goalkeeper.
I think he went to.
Did he go to Leeds?
Yes,
wrong white team.
Yeah, I think that's
Leeds.
Oh.
Yeah. It wasn't Spurs.
It looks like Vicario's not going to be playing. I know they did.
Kinski's the guy, according to everything.
Kinski's the guy. They did sign a keeper, and I thought the other keeper was reputable enough that he could be playing. They're short of striker. I mean, Madison's probably back from injury now. Like you have a decent squad at Tottenham. I think I saw Richarlison might be on his way out as well. But I mean, the rest of the teams, like it's not a bad team. I think I like De Zerbi as a manager. I think they could be a little bit surprising this year, maybe.
Yeah,
I expect him to be top 10,
top 4,
top 10,
top 4. I'm going to make the call. I think Tottenham could be top 4 this year.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah, as in a bit of a hot take, early doors hot take. I like the business they've done so much that I'm like, I think that they're an early shout for like they could be given what's happening at Chelsea, what's happening at Liverpool, Man United. I think with the European football, you can't underestimate that. I think there's a huge question mark there still. Again, I think Tielemans is a great signing. But again, how do you rotate round when you're in 4 competitions, right? Is different. When they went out of both domestic cups early. That will be a factor. I do think Tottenham have got a real focus this year. And I think they've signed some really good players, like players that I would have wanted, like Fernandes, I wanted a Liverpool, Senesi, I wanted a Liverpool, right? I would have held on to Robbo because I don't think we have a great answer. I don't think Kirkes is. I think we just don't have a successor yet. So I would have held on to him to rotate in and out for another season. But yeah, it's super interesting.
Actually, well, I like Kirkes at Liverpool now with Iraola being the manager because I thought he was really good at Bournemouth. I'd be interested to see what he does under the manager. I agree. The play style changing, so
that's the one thing.
I wouldn't write him off. I think he could surprise you this season.
Yeah, it gives me hope, Billy, that he's played well under the manager before, but outside of that, I was like, I think his head.
I think actually he might be a good manager for Frimpong as well, getting the most out of fullbacks.
Frimpong's the most. He's a nonsense player, mate. I'm sorry. He just needs to be shot at the cannon. He's just not. I can't get on board with him at all. Being a footballer, he's just not a footballer to me. No, he's really, really, really fast. But he's
really fast.
He's a terrible footballer. Like just a terrible footballer. He in terms of like you both played, right? The best players you played with, it's here, right? It's like he has got no, he doesn't have that at all. I think Kirk
is not going to lead the charge and say it's not done and just
no. It's like Kirk is like a rabbit in the headlights. I just think these guys are just way above where they should even be.
Well, I hope the rest of your team is shite this season, but both your fullbacks are great.
Well, listen, you can have them any day you want. Just pay the going rate, and we'll have.
They're not centre backs. We can have them.
Well, you could put them in centre back. You can make them in a centre back.
No. What are you talking about?
But yeah, let's finish up in fantasy. Listen, Mike's put up on the screen there. You see that we do have a fantasy Premier League Mini-League. There's the code to join.
Yes, for those that are listening and not watching, it is I07B9F. Please join the Football is Life Shield.
Yes. And the key here is, Mike, they've got to try and beat the GOAT, right? You know, you're the guy that you're the one to beat. So you got to take the scalp. Who can take the scalp of Mike Blanchett in fantasy football? And there will, listen, I'm going to put out there, Mike, I'm going to sponsor. There'll be a prize if you do it, right? There will be a prize. I will figure that out over the next couple of weeks what that prize is. But if somebody takes the scalp, I want this guy taken down, right? Because I've been trying for years and it's tough.
Nothing aggravates you more than an American beating you in fantasy, does it?
I know. It's so upsetting. It's so humbling. But yes, let's talk fantasy football, Mike.
Okay.
So we've talked about this. The challenge in fantasy football right now is in a couple of weeks, you're going to have to cement your starting lineup, your squad. We're in a situation where we've got obviously a ton of flux. And look, there should be some transfers that settle over the next couple of weeks, but we believe and probably know a lot are going to bleed into the season, which kind of leads to people, and again, myself included, many years ago, going panicking on an early wild card because you kind of go, oh, right, I want to get these people in. So what I would like to get from you is like, how are you thinking about, you know, and this is the thing, folks, right? Somebody should be able to beat him because on this podcast, I ask him to share his thoughts, right? Okay, so I feel you're quite open. I feel you're not like opposed.
I don't try to. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So what?
It's a game,
how are you
right?
thinking? Yeah, how are you thinking through navigating in terms of when you look at that? Are you looking at the fixtures over the first sort of 3 weeks or so? Like, how are you thinking about assembling that squad so it means you can almost free transfer your way through to pick up people that you would maybe transfer in after game week 1? Like, tell me how you're thinking about that.
Yeah. So the first thing is the pricing of the 3 biggest premiums has made it near impossible to, like, you can't get Gabriel, Bruno, and Haaland and expect to have a team, right? So Haaland's most expensive asset in the history of the game at 15.5. Bruno's up to 12 million because there's no Mo Salah, so someone's got to be super expensive in the midfield. And you've got Gabriel at 8 million. So 8 million.
Jesus Christ.
Right. And then the rest of the back line for Arsenal is 5.5. So it's, yes. And so that's
even Saliba, yeah.
I have to check on Saliba, but like Calafiori, Mosquera, all of them are 5.5. So, so, you know, and Raya is 6 million. And so I think they still on paper have the best defense in the league. So finding the right mix, and like, you can't replace a Gabriel, just like you can't replace a Haaland. Like when people talk about, you know, cover, I think that's silly. Like the player's the player. You're not covering it by having someone that's not that player. But I am looking at a draft right now that probably will not include Gabriel, and I'll find a way to at least double up on the defense. I also think that Raya is probably too expensive. I do like the Kinski pick as a potential for a decent goalkeeper. So I for me right now, it's just kind of like figuring out the structure. And I do think I'm trying to find a way to just principally play 3 at the back and have a couple of defenders that rotate around. Haaland's always starts a season hot. So I feel like I'd be crazy to not have him. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that there's a doubly long international break between game weeks 5 and 6, 2 weeks long. So trying to find a way to at least have 3 transfers going into that is going to be key. So those are just some of the things I'm thinking about right now. I am nowhere near locked on a draft at all. And I'm hearing a lot of talk about people looking at bench boost game week 2, which is interesting. I haven't gotten that far into thinking about chips just yet, but for me right now, it's just figuring out the structure and like building around most likely having a Bruno and a Haaland in the squad to start, and where's the right double up for Arsenal on the defense. And maybe you don't double up until after Chelsea, and when they get hopefully fully fit after the first few weeks. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about right now. But yeah.
Okay. Billy.
I think the fantasy battle this year, especially with the price of the premium, is going to be in the midfield teams, the mid-table teams. So I myself have not gotten too deep into how expensive everyone is and where the those mystery assets are. But I am looking at teams like Nottingham Forest, teams like Tottenham, teams like Everton that might have the managerial background to help keep clean sheets and maybe get contributions here and there.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you my strategy, and I'll take feedback on it live. The way I'm looking at it is the only way I can kind of settle on like what makes sense to me is I think there's always going to be like trying to guess the players like Semenyo early like last year, right? You're gonna have somebody, and to me, that's your free transfer. Like if you're lucky enough to just pick them up, like that's just so hard. So you just kind of need to be like, I'm watching and go, right, if somebody seems like the start of the season hot, I'm just gonna make free transfer week 2, scoop them up. Week 3, you just go, right, I'm gonna ride the player that's hot. I think the way when I look at the fixtures over the first 3 weeks, because I think after 3 weeks, all the transfers will be done. And I look at those first 3 weeks as being critical, where what I don't want to do is have a deficit where I'm chasing. And I think that's the worst thing, because that leads to playing chips when you shouldn't play chips, like taking hits on points for free transfers. And I think it can be really hard if you're chasing early and you start making too many changes. So there's 3 teams. Arsenal are one of them, where I look at I can't believe Gabriel is that price. I know he scores from headers. I expect that return to diminish this year as teams have had a season of footage to figure out maybe we want to stop him scoring goals, and that might help. So that seems too rich for me, Mike. I agree.
Yeah.
Arsenal want to be in because I know Villa and Chelsea are hard, but I think they're the most settled team. And I think that's one team I feel I can trust. And that's where I look at like a Saka, right? For example, if he's fit. If he's not fit, the problem that I have with Arsenal is if we have Saka out, Rice out, Saliba out, that perspective maybe changes a little bit. So it's looking at like who are the players that are going to step in, and is it Eze, for example, or one, or you look at Gyökeres early or something like that, or Havertz, you think he's going to be playing. So I think that's the hard thing with Arsenal is maybe you don't know exactly who's going to be playing, but I think they're a team you want to have at least a couple of pieces. Man City are another team, again, pretty settled squad. I think you're right with Haaland, but I'm always tempted to go against the grain, but I think you're right, Mike. But I think you have to look at, I think Doku finished the season really strong. I don't know defensively how much I would trust them. I think, Guehi's an interesting one. He does get goal contributions. He does get a lot of defensive contributions.
Maresca has also said that Gvardiol is going to be core to what he's putting together. So he's the one I'm looking at defensively.
He's also good. But again, just fitness-wise, I just mean Guehi in terms of like he breaks the lines with his passes, threat from corner. I think if you're looking at Gabriel, okay, I'm not going to have Gabriel. What you want to try and do is have like a few people like that in your back line. Like you say, Mike, you feel like, like Senesi was like that for Bournemouth. You could always rely on him to have like an assist, like because he plays forward, right? There's other center halves that play sideways, right? So you don't want those center halves. And then the other team is Man United. They've actually got quite a favourable start before the Manchester derby in week 4. I think they play Ipswich, maybe Coventry as well, actually. I think they've got a couple of easy games. Well, on paper, again, games you would look at. So again, that's where to me, Bruno Fernandes, screams out. But again, like don't forget, Yuri Tielemans, quite a lot of goal involvement for Aston Villa. And he's a very involved player in the midfield. He's a dynamic midfielder. And then I think you're looking at across that front line. Is it Mbeumo? Is it Cunha? Like you have to look across that and figure, got to try and keep an eye there and figure that out. Defensively, I actually think Lamens could be a good shout early as a keeper. If you don't want to go Raya, he'll be cheaper. I think he's a decent keeper. So yeah, I think they're the 3 teams I'm going, you know what? I'm going to have at least 6 or 7 players net to have the coverage because I think the fixtures generally are okay. I feel that they're quite 3 squads that are relatively settled. And then I'm going to just take some, instinctive punts in terms of, right, who do I think, I might pick up a Liverpool. You're almost like, you're trying to cover your ass a little bit, right? And go, right, what if, Tottenham have a good start to the season? So maybe I have a Tottenham player. What if Liverpool? So you kind of spread. I'm thinking about spreading that across and then just letting the first few weeks kind of ride out and making those week-to-week transfers as I feel I start to learn more. That's what I'm thinking, Mike. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. It's, yeah.
insightful. Thanks. That's really helpful.
Well, I mean, the approach makes sense. I think you want to whittle it down to some of those key teams that you think are settled and can make some contributions. And I just think if you can find a way to minimize the transfers in the first 3 or 4 weeks to just like sort of those emergency ones, then you set yourself up to be able to address anything that happens in that long international break or some of those things that are going to happen in, week 5, 6.
Yeah. And I think like Man United, it's Hull, Ipswich, and Everton. That's their first 3 games. Man City, if I look at their first year, they're home to Bournemouth. You expect them to be, Bournemouth obviously lost their manager. They then go to Palace, lost their manager, and then I think they're at home to Coventry before the Manchester derby. I like that. I think Spurs fixtures like Brentford away, Newcastle home, Forest away, they're okay. They're not bad. Like, similar to Liverpool's, I'm like, meh. So they're the teams that I'm like, I might take a player from those teams or a couple if I'm feeling like bullish on Tottenham. But I think that's what I'm trying to do is look, I'm not trying to guess, this guy for Coventry is going to be the people that, in week 4, everyone's got that player. You just need to, that will reveal itself to you. The key is you got to get on that when it happens, like Semenyo last year, get on it and have a transfer ready to go.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that's it. But listen, the good news is next week we're going to have way more to talk about.
We sure hope so. Let's do something out there, managers and clubs. Like spend money, make it happen. Let's go.
Yeah, and next week what we're going to position, boys, just to tee it up, and obviously Waz will listen back to it. We're going to have, I know I've put a prediction out there, but Tottenham, Billy liked it, but we're going to have some bold predictions, right? So there'll be bold predictions in terms of surprises, bold predictions in terms of teams that we think people think might finish here, but might, end up going, wah, 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 right? Players as well. So I want you to have a think about that. Like some hot takes you can come in with it or not. And it can't be, Arsenal win the league again, or Man City will finish second. It can't be boring, right? It's got to be something that people like, there'll be a reaction, not just from the guys on the podcast, but from the listeners as well. So that's something to look forward to next week. But yes, so get your thinking caps on, boys.
All right. Thinking
there
cap
we go.
applied.
Listen, thanks to everyone for listening. And let's hope this next week Fabrizio Romano's, Facebook, Instagram feed gets absolutely sizzling hot with an influx of transfers.
Here we go. Here's to lots of here we goes.
Exactly. Here we go. We'll see you next time, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.
From the terrace to the mic, football is life.